there's certain techniques that you can tell if it was printed off of stone. For instance, on that Jim Dine print, the key image, the black on that print was drawn on a stone. And Jim, he loves to just attack the stone. I mean, he'll use sandpaper and razor blades and just literally attack the stone when he makes a drawing. And so you can't do that on aluminum plate. You cannot scratch on aluminum plate. So every element has its limitations, and so the stone is more versatile. You can do more things on a stone than you can on aluminum plate.
Secondary to that, then, do you study the artist before he comes to work with you?
Oh, yeah.
So could you tell Lesley, perhaps, maybe you don't want to use that particular surface, maybe you'd rather have this surface?
Oh, it's all up to him.
Yeah. I mean, all the prints that we did with Lesley, they were all done on aluminum plates. There were no stones involved. So yeah, that's part of the printer's, we don't need to use stones.
Yeah, he's the boss.
Yeah, I use letters also, but I have a technical question. Do you do calligraphy? How do you get such great letters?
Well, I have become a whiz at, when you you have your computer, and then you have your printer, and then, then you discover that you can actually photocopy. Right? So, I have a lot of stencils, and so I just color them in, and then I put them in the photocopy machine, and they say, reduce 80%. And that tool is my favorite tool, is that photocopy aspect of the printing. My own little printing workshop.
Bill, how many artists are you able to work with in a year or in the season?
Well, on the average, we do about 12 a year. We do about one a month. Sometimes we have more than one artist a month, but on the average, about one a month. And they can stay for either a week or 2 weeks, depending on their schedule.
What would be the largest run you would do for an artist? 100 prints, 1,000?
No, we would never do 1,000. I would shoot myself.
You wouldn't want to do 1,000 of the...
Huh?
1,000 of
The jubilation?
I love that. I know you didn't mean to use the word before necessarily in that way, but we artists are invited to come. So it's not like there are servants. We go, Bill, Marge, I'd like to have 2,000 of those, and maybe then red, and maybe black paper, and then something. So it's an honor to, as you can tell, to be invited to come. So you already, I come, I think, pretty humble.
Leslie wants to come back, I think. So.
We are.
Are there any artists that you haven't worked with yet that you would like to work with in the future?
Oh yeah. In fact, I've been kind of courting Terry Winters recently. Well, for the past 2 years. And out of the blue, about a month ago, I got this email from him saying, "Oh, I'm going to be in Albuquerque. I'd like to come by and see the facilities." So I'm like, "Oh, nice," So he came by and I showed him around, and I think he really liked the facilities, liked the shop, and we always have prints around, and there was a couple of prints that he really kind of focused in on and asked me how did I get that texture, and da-da-da-da-da. So we talked a little technical stuff, and so I'm hoping in 2014 to get him to come and do some work. So that's one example of somebody.
Well, why don't we get you, and then right there, and then there.
On the jubilation piece, it was you wanted the letters to not be
Flat.
You want them to be a little bit three-dimensional. So how do you, are you shadow boxing this to frame it?
Well, there's always, most of the time, all the prints that you see in the show here, they're floated on a mat. But there's a spacer in between the glass and the print. So, you know, they're not raised that much, so that, whatever that is, half-inch, quarter-inch spacer in there, it's enough to allow that to kind of come out a little bit. There.
What are the largest size stones you have? Some of these are pretty large, representative. And how many passes might something like one of the dying roads take?
Oh, God.
That was, what, 6 months to commission that?
Yeah, it took me, well, no, it didn't take me no, it didn't take me that long. But just the black run on it, there's two blacks. There's a black that's the rope drawing, but the background, the kind of wash in the background, that's actually on a separate plate. It's not on the stone. So there's actually two blacks in there. It took about, I don't know, 8 passes for me to ink that up full. But there's an interesting story. I was printing that print, and one day, I was just printing the underneath colors one day. It was about 3 in the afternoon, and I was getting a little tired. And it was one of our biggest stones that we have in the shop, and it was almost to the edge of the, I don't know if everybody knows how a press looks, but we have electric presses, so they go through, and there's a yoke that does the housing where you pull the pressure down. So the stone there was only about a gap of ½ inch between the stone and the yoke of the press. Well, I was putting down the temping that allows the pressure to transfer the ink to the paper. And I'm putting the thing down, and the press is slowly moving forward. Well, I got my finger caught between the stone and the yoke, and it just like took me in, and I'm like, oh God. And I went, ah. So I had to put it in reverse, push the button, took my finger, and it just split my finger open like a cantaloupe. And RF took me to the hospital. I got like 4 stitches in my finger. But I figured that's the first accident I've had in 30 years of printing, so that's not too bad. But oh my God, I got really queasy.
Go there, and then you.
I was just wondering what kind of glue you're using when you do the collage.
We use this stuff called Duramount. It's like double-sided tape, but it's archival.
Oh,
So you cut it out whatever size you want, you know, just a little snippet of it. You stick it onto the piece that you want to glue, and then you peel off the backing and then put it down. So it's just double-sided tape. But there's other glues you can use. You can use like jade glue or what's that other stuff?
yes.
Yes, yeah, you can use less yes glue.
Okay, well, I just wanted to pull it back up and pull the letters back up, collage back up, or would you use that Dura tape?
The Duramount?
The Dura mount.
What'd you say? I didn't hear the first.
You lift it back up, you take them off, or you just leave it there on the floor. I mean, you don't pull the collage piece up and remove it, and then put another piece down.
No. No. It's just one little piece it's just like putting a drop of glue on the back of something. But the problem with glue sometimes is, since it's liquid, it leaves a mark that you can see through the layering. And since we're using such thin paper, we didn't want to use a water-based glue that you could possibly see where the glue was. So we use this, like I said, this Duramount.
Thank you.
What's the meaning when you use like skeletons instead of actual people? Why do you use skeletons instead of like blood? You just use their skeletons. Why do you choose that instead of like an actual person? Like a lot.
Why do we do that?
You're the artist.
I think really it was very inspired by Mexico. And I mean, there is you know, sitting here, I'm thinking of your mind, and I'm thinking of your mind looking at it, and you're thinking, wow, it's what a, you know, this is what a sick artist that is. But, you know, there's this comedic, I mean, we have Halloween, right?
Yeah.
So there's this comedic, you know, skeleton, dance with death, and, you know, I mean, I don't feel that it's dour, that we use the figures in any way that are dour. But in my other, I do other work that has fully clothed, fully fleshed.
Or clothes.
Or
The
clothes.
essence of a person, like,
Oh.
like with your digging, like the inner core, like that's like that person that you know it's just you know actual bone and stuff. It's like it's giving away all the layers of human body. So it's like this is me.
Ah, that is, that's why. Yeah, exactly. Brilliant comment. Thank you.
We have time for a couple more questions. We'll go you, and then.
Not being disrespectful, paraphrasing your friend's comment on the plate, does that mean that we can, when we look at a piece by a stoned artist, it's going to be more exciting?
That's good, I like that.
That's very good. I think you just need to say what I thought it said.
Feel free to use that.
Thank you, I
I
will.
think it's very generous on it here. Yeah. We don't do that when we're working, do we? No.
Since you've been involved with printmaking for so long, using the laser cutter to cut out the skeletons was a really unique and obviously useful technique. What are some of the favorite techniques you've come across using printmaking?
I don't know. You know, I kind of don't like to talk about technique because it's, to me, when I look at a print, to me it's not about technique. It's like you look at a print and you either like it or you don't. And, you know, it says something to you. And I do have, it's not really a bias, but I usually don't like to work with printmakers to make prints. I'd much rather work with a painter or sculptor or somebody that does mixed media work. I find that sometimes printmakers, I mean, it's a real generalization, it's not always the case, but a lot of times printmakers get kind of lost in technique and they kind of can't see the forest through the trees. And it's just my little hang up about it. And sometimes I'm like, you know, they'll say, well, you know, they'll point to one little part on the print and they'll go, oh, isn't that so nice, or it's not so nice. And you're like, well, what about the big picture here? You know, what about standing back and look at this piece? And, you know, so that's kind of my take on it. I don't really have any favorite techniques per se that I like to work with. So I love working with the artist. You know, to me that's the exciting part about it. It's not about, you know, it's coming up with maybe solutions for a print that maybe, you know, we haven't thought about, or, you know, the artist will come in and say, I want to do this or that, and you go, in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I don't know how to do it. How am I going to do that? You know, and then you go home that night, you sleep, and you think about it, and then, you know, hopefully you come up with a solution. Sometimes you can't.
Well, thank you, Bill Lagattuta.